You're listening to the Rosenfeld Review. I'm Lou Rosenfeld, and today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to talk about a park and a vision behind a park, and the person behind the vision who's with us today, Rosa Chang. Rosa, welcome to the Rosenfeld Review.
Hello, Lou. Thank you so much for having me.
Great to have you. So everyone, I hope I piqued your interest a little bit there with that intro. It is going to be different. And let me start by saying Rosa and I met in sort of an odd circumstance. I was at a silent auction for my kids' school, high school in Lower Manhattan. And a silent auction, people are there and offering things to be auctioned. And there was this nice person standing there offering a tour, a walking tour that we could bid on for something called Gotham Park. And, you know, you're at one of these auctions and you're like, what do I do here? And my wife and I just walked over to Rosa, and she was so nice. And we just started chatting. And she said, yeah, I do these walking tours of Gotham Park. And we'd never heard of Gotham Park. And I imagined it was like the little, I don't know, plaza right in front of the school. And I'm thinking, wow, we could be done with that walking tour in about 30 seconds, but she seems like a nice person, even if it's only 30 seconds. So we bid on it. We won the walking tour with Rosa, and then we met her a couple months later, and we were surprised. So Rosa, what is Gotham Park?
So Gotham Park is a vision for a 9-acre public space underneath the Brooklyn Bridge in Lower Manhattan. And so I wouldn't be surprised if none of you are familiar with it, because it's a place that has been derelict, abandoned, dark, sort of underutilized for many years. And a lot of the buildings that are directly adjacent to it, including the high school, sort of turned their backs to it because it's not particularly pleasant. And so one day I came across this site and I was like, wow, there's so much potential here. And so that's what sort of set us off on our work to revitalize and reconnect this part of the city to its direct neighbors, and to, by doing that, actually create a space that is an opportunity for all of our diverse community to come together, rather than be, separated by what is a half-mile long, very, very heavy bridge.
Well, the bridge is certainly a thing of beauty, but it's been tangled up with some of the byproducts of Robert Moses's work. And, I remember on the tour,
Yes.
you took us on, I think, like an unused on-ramp, and that figured into your vision. And there was like basketball courts that were under another part of the bridge that were fenced off, and like right by a high school of all things. And
Yes.
the high school that doesn't even have any outdoor space. And
Yes.
so like, I just love the idea of connecting those things together. And I imagine it was pretty obvious to you. And I want to get into like that aha moment. But before we do that, everyone, if you're listening, even if you haven't been to Manhattan, New York in the USA, it's a pretty big place. But 9 acres in Lower Manhattan near Wall Street. My office is right off Wall Street. I walk or bike through that area often. And 9 acres? That is huge. And 9 acres that could be used for something for the public. Not like, let's build luxury condos there, but let's do stuff for the public. This is crazy. Rosa, are you on crack? I mean, come on. But I have a feeling you actually are pretty serious about this.
We are dead serious about this, and we've already made progress. So, Gotham Park is a 501(c)(3), which means that we're a public charity, and we are the designated plaza partner for the site. And the reason why we are the designated plaza partner is because in year two, we actually were able to open our first acre. Acre one,
One down, eight to
acre.
go.
Exactly. And guess what? We're going to be 4 acres in 4 years. So that means that we're going to be four down very, very soon. And five more to go. So we're working on it. We're taking little bites of the apple. And so we are really excited because yes, on the surface of it, this is an incredibly difficult endeavor with a very, very low chance of success. But we have seen amazing movement with speed. And I want to actually just touch on the speed part because time is important. When you talk about that basketball court that's across the street from the high school, that basketball court that the students could see, past open like fencing, students are in high school only for like 4 years. So when a basketball court that they can see but they can't have access to is closed for 13 years, how many thousands of children
Mm-hmm.
went through their entire high school experience without the ability to play basketball directly across the street? Like that matters. Time matters. It's critical.
It's not just the ability to play a game, it's also the message they're getting that no, this is not for you. It could be for you, but we, whoever we are, have decided it's not for you. And you don't even know who we are who've made that decision. It's just not there for you.
Yes. And I think that that's one of the things is that these decisions aren't made, they just happen. And I think that if people are focusing on them, they wouldn't happen that way. But a lot of times the decisions are made at such a high level that the impact on the local sort of granular level is not understood. And so I don't think it's made with like a malicious intent or an
Mm-hmm.
exclusionary thinking. I think it's just, sadly, sometimes it's just paperwork. It's just administrative, and no one is looking at that hyper local impact lens. And I think that that's what hopefully is going to be happening more.
So against this backdrop of years and years of multiple parts of, in this case, New York City government making sin after sin of omission, you're seeing opportunities to connect kids to basketball courts, to make a number of other connections in the community. Like I know, for example, there are people who do yoga in the first acre.
Yeah.
You're opening up a Brooklyn Banks skate park. I don't know
Yeah.
much about Brooklyn Banks. I know it was on the other side of the bridge, but what's that's another connection you're doing. Tell us a little bit more about the
Sure.
vision
So
that you came up with.
Sure. So it's interesting. The Brooklyn Banks is a mecca for skateboarders and BMXers and parkour enthusiasts. And it existed there and it was open there before. So I would say it was probably strongest in, the 80s and 90s. And then it got closed down permanently in 2010. And it got closed down because the bridge needed some repair work done to it. So it wasn't that they necessarily were looking to just permanently close down this section. It was more that, like, the bridge is 140 years old. And if you were 140 years old, you'd need some work done too. So, so they were undertaking that work. But then the question was, like, if this area is closed for this long, then what else can it be used for? And there's always projects going on. And so we sort of slid in that sort of little tiny sliver of a window to say, hey, there's people that live around here, there's people that go to school here, there's people that work here, and we really are under resourced in terms of open public space in this community. Maybe we could push that work somewhere else And in this specific, historically disadvantaged community and environmental justice neighborhood, we could actually create the open space that the community desperately needs. And that was heard. And that's the thing about sort of like unintended consequences and intentional sort of focus and light, is that when you do speak up and say, hey, let's shine a light on this particular area and recognize the need here, and that recognizing that there is a solution and it's not that difficult to achieve. Let's look at this puzzle together and see if we can work it out. And I think that's been the process for us, is to shine a light on the problems, but also present potential solutions so that we can break it down and just make that process easier. But also, again, work with speed, because, again, I think time is critical.
So a couple I guess visual metaphors just came up, looking at the puzzle together.
Yes.
And shining light.
Yes.
Amazing. And I imagine you take this for granted. Now, your bio on the Gotham Park website's very short, and I know that that's probably by design, but I will say, I know enough about you to know that your background is in architecture, and that you're now not only the president of and co-founder of Gotham Park, the 501c3,
yes.
But you're also now essentially a elected representative, right? You're on the community board of your
not elected. So
not elected.
Community boards are appointed.
Okay.
But you do put your hand up and say, hey, I want to be a voice for the community that I live in. And then yes, you are selected by, in this case, the Manhattan Borough President.
Okay. Although you're in our conversation today, you're not representing either of those organizations.
No. I just want to say that whatever I say or missay, I am representing myself, Rosa Chang, the human being, and not Gotham Park, the 501c3, or Manhattan Community Board.
Got it. Well, glad to have the human being here.
Thank you.
But I'd like to dig into whether it's your training as an architect or something else that helps you and has helped you pull this vision together, to capture it, to hold it down long enough that it can be communicated. And I'm sure that's changed over the last, you've been doing this for like at least 4 years now.
3. Yeah,
3 years. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get into the basically the capture of the vision thing, because I think, a lot of the challenges that you've faced and that you've described already in this podcast are not unlike what a lot of our listeners are facing in their work. It may not be the design material of land and transportation and communities, but they're working with some pretty complex challenges at a systems level more and more. So let's dig into that after the break. Everyone, you're listening to the Rosenfeld Review, and our guest today is Rosa Chang. We'll be right back. I'm going to give you 5 reasons you should be using the Rosenverse. First one, where else are you going to find 100 events that you can attend for free every year, 2 a week, about product management, product design, and UX design, plus a highly engaged Slack-based community of over 13,000 of your peers. What else are you going to find in the Rosenverse? You'll find hundreds and hundreds of recordings of conference presentations and community session recordings, all in one place from a single search browse interface. And behind those hundreds of recordings are hundreds of experts, people who have advanced the field, people who are your peers who are doing interesting new things, all in one place. Why else should you use the Rosenverse? We've been advancing the field of UX since 2005. You're going to find the most advanced content on such topics as design operations and program management, UX research, and a host of other topics, from climate UX to civic design to how designers can work better in product organizations. Lastly, you've been trusting our content since we started back in 2005. whether it's our books, our conferences, our community sessions, well, we think you're going to trust the way we've brought those all together so that you can spend less time searching and browsing and more time learning and benefiting. I hope you'll try out the Rosenverse, and I hope you'll consider upgrading to a gold paid membership because it brings you a lot more. Not only do you have access to hundreds and hundreds of recorded conference presentations, but you also get access to the Rosenbot, which is a ChatGPT 4 level chatbot that we've been training on all of our content, including our growing collection of nearly 60 books and counting. It's all there, it's all great content, and the Rosenbot is a cutting-edge way to get at it. You can try the gold membership out with a trial for 2 weeks. Give it a try. Hope you like it. Welcome back to the Rosenfeld Review. Lou Rosenfeld with Rosa Chang, who, it's hard for me to go to any podcast without somehow making a reference to the power broker and Robert Moses. And, my listeners probably have heard me do that too much, but I kind of feel like I have the anti-Robert Moses here today with me, Rosa Chang, and the work you're doing on making Gotham Park a reality is just incredible. Like Robert Moses, if anyone's read the book, he really was a visionary. And, like you, Rosa, I mean, when he got started, a lot of his early breakthrough was, just feeling like, wow, the South Shore of Long Island would be just a great playground for New Yorkers. And then finding, almost by accident, but he'd give him credit, he dug and found city-owned land that could be used to build roads to the beaches. And it was land that the city had acquired like in the 1800s to be reservoir land. The city of Brooklyn acquired it before it even merged with the rest of New York City because Brooklyn wanted to have a water supply. It merged with the rest of New York City, which already had a great water supply. And so that land just sat fallow for years and years and years until Moses figured it out and leveraged it and made some great things happen until he went down the toilet with his morals and ethics. But that's a different book. The book on Gotham Park and your work, what I really want to dig into is you had this vision a few years ago, and you had to get people to see that vision and understand it. And these were people, some of them were bureaucrats, right? Like at the New York Police Department, which had a role in the neighborhood, the Department of Transportation, which owned or at least manages a lot of the property. I think there's at least one other major New York bureaucracy, plus the community, and that's really communities. It's not one just monocultured group. How did you take what was in your brain and capture it in a way that other people could engage with? And has that changed since you started?
So interestingly, what is in my brain has changed a lot over time. And that's because I never let anything anchor into it. It took us a really, really long time years to come up with renderings for what this project could be. And the reason was because we wanted an openness of other people to be able to overlay their own thinking and imagination and priorities about what they need from local public space into the landscape. So it wasn't about saying this is what it will be, except for saying that this will be accessible and open for all. It was about constantly, with every single site walk, every single introduction, every single conversation, to sort of say, how could this space help you? How could this space make your life better? How do you envision you or your family utilizing whatever this space can be? And so I think part of the magic is actually not having that anchor,
Hmm.
but actually being open to the possibilities that you can't imagine. Because you don't come from those lived experiences and you don't have that priority because you know what you know, but you don't know what you don't know. So it's about being open.
So, what I hear you saying is like long before there were renderings,
Yes.
there was there were conversations, and
So many.
but rather than the renderings anchoring and maybe, as you're saying, over anchoring or constraining what
Right.
could be,
Yes.
the conversations took place, and so somehow you made that happen, which I'd like to come back to. But there was probably some kind of through line, whether you right at the beginning or what you're doing today. Maybe it was some values or some principles, like you
Yes.
said a moment ago, that it should be open and accessible. I think is how you put it.
Yes.
That was a value you had from the get go.
Yes.
Were,
Yes.
were there other values that are the sort of, if not anchors, they're stable and can remain so?
Um, I think it's about recognize. Well, so first of all, I love the Brooklyn Bridge. I think it is one of the most beautiful structures that we have ever been able to imagine and build.
Amen.
And so the bridge um, anchors a lot of my understanding of the space and what is, potential versus not potential. And it comes with a deep respect for the structure, that it's, space in our collective, mind and understanding of New York City and in fact even the whole country, um, as what we're capable of, like as human beings, right? That we are capable of imagining and building like enormous beauty that lasts over generations. Like that's an incredible thing that human beings can do and have done. And so I want to celebrate that. I hope that, whatever ends up happening with Gotham Park, that it is a celebration of this most incredible anchor, which very conveniently, um, being landmarked three different ways, is able to make sure that the land underneath it isn't built on. And
Mm-hmm.
so, really, the only option is to leave it as landscape, that literally stretches from City Hall to the East River, which is insane. And so, but to use it to help the community, because being on the community board, what I was hearing over time is just all the different things that our community doesn't have. And so it's about sort of recognizing that this might be a singular opportunity to answer those needs that the community has wrestled with for decades. And so the answers are not like, my imagination just pulling things from the sky. It's actually based on all of those conversations and every single walk with a community stakeholder, and then follow up conversations and follow up walks, and recognizing that the answer is not in any one person, but the answer is in all of the lives that are lived right here.
So you're less a designer and more a facilitator.
I would say with this project, absolutely. Yes, I have not even dared to think architecturally or design wise. Um, what I have done is communicate or weave together the threads of different stories, and different needs. Absolutely.
And so that weaving together probably also meant bringing people together. So you might have walked with two separate individuals, uh, and separate walks, and I imagine you then brought them together, maybe from different parts of the city bureaucracy. Or has that been something that human connecting a big aspect of what you do?
I would say yes. And I would say that there is, always so much more to be done. Um, we have a community of over 47,000 people that live within a half-mile radius of the bridge. I can be really clear. We have not spoken to 47,000 people, but we have spoken to a lot of people who, are deeply rooted in their communities and that advocate so strong for their communities. And so we have connected with as many people as we can. And we also like to connect other people that are from different realms, because we think that that's incredibly important, because it is about conversation. I mean, when you like the word community is it's such a big word. And what it really, to me, what it means is like individual to individual conversation and connection and understanding from different perspectives. What is it that you actually have in common?
Mm-hmm.
And then also sharing the things that you actually have not in common, because that's how like every single one of us grows in understanding of the world and of ourselves. And so it really is about sort of facilitating those discussions. And then, when you think about public space, what's incredible is that it's barrierless, right? The whole point is that you don't have to pay anything to go in there. You don't have to have an agenda to spend time there. We want public space, and we need public space where everybody is welcome, and you can go and sit and talk to somebody who's different than you and learn from that person. And so that's why it is literally essential to every single community that there is.
Well, I mean, I love it. I mean, you're about connecting people. That's the process you're using, in effect, to make this a reality. And the reality itself, the vision of Gotham Park, sounds like it's to be a space for those kinds of connections to happen almost at scale. Let's say it's some years from now, and there's 9 acres, and I mean, it's already a success, but it's already happening. But when you look back on it, are there certain kinds of connections you would love to know that were made in Gotham Park?
I'm going to be totally non-exclusionary and say that every single connection that happens there is going to be amazing and successful, and I would consider a win. Every friendship that is there, every neighbor connection that is made there, everything is essential.
But before we wrap up, I do want to go back to this question of capturing a vision, documenting it, sharing it in a way. I know that you're cautious about anchoring it too much, and I totally get that, and that a lot of your power has been through conversation and connection. But I remember when we did do our walkthrough Gotham Park, you had like this amazing let me show you, and you had your iPad, and you just would pull up renderings. So you got to a point now where there's at least some renderings. Do you find that as you started to capture a picture that's changed, are you now finding that those pictures are indeed anchoring in maybe a negative way? Or are you able to kind of keep that from happening somehow?
I am going to actually toss you a question, which is what images do you remember that sort of pop out in your head?
Well, one right away. There's a stretch under the Brooklyn Bridge that is a series of arches, and it was an enclosure. It still is an enclosure, but it's been empty. And I know that at one point there was was it a winemaking facility or company, and you have already been in touch with that company. They're still around to bring them back and open up a winery. And there was a whole rendering of all kinds of different shops and other types of vibrant places in those spaces right under the bridge. That's actually part of the bridge.
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
Okay. So I'm going to say, yes, they used to have wine and champagne vaults underneath the Brooklyn Bridge. And because what do you do with all of this temperature stable below grade space that has no windows? I mean, it's obviously store alcohol. I
course.
suspect that the images that you're referring to are actually historical. of the space. And so they, except for the one rendering that where you saw like a lot of greenery, which is sort of the future, but it's really interesting because I think what captures the spirit and imagination of people who walk through the site is recognizing that there was real beauty here a long time ago, that's part of the history that's baked into this space. And so they see what was and can see what could be again, a modern version and utilization of that, because we have been blocked off from being able to access these spaces for decades. And so now it's not out of the realm of possibility because it was actually there before. And it's about sort of recognizing and respecting the history of the space, like authentically, but also then layering on current needs and current community. And so I think that's what resonates with people, is that sort of like that through line of how people have utilized this space and how we could utilize this space today.
So looking at a past rendering is almost like looking at a future rendering, and vice versa. Either way, they both engage us at a human level in the space that we have existed in and could exist in again. That's exciting. Exactly. Just it goes that kind of, you just kind of left me speechless, obviously, but. Let me put it to you this way, everyone. When they say it can't be done, think Rosa and then think yourself, because it can be done. The vision may be already there. It sounds like in some respects, Rosa, it's like, the stuff that was there is just things that can come back if we envision that. Rosa, we're going to have to wrap up, which breaks my heart because I'd love to keep talking. But I'd like to know what gift you brought for our listeners and fine Rosenfeld Review tradition.
Okay. So the gift that I have brought is actually a challenge, which is that I am going to ask everybody that is listening to step out today and talk to someone who you might not normally talk to. Talk to somebody. I find that we all live in our own little bubble. And you will be amazed what treasure you find when you step out of your bubble and talk to somebody with kindness in your heart and an open heart. So I'm going to challenge you all to do that and see what happens.
Thank you for being an absolute perfect model of exactly that. And your unbelievable work with Gotham Park and improving the community in Manhattan is just really, it just blows my mind. And I'm not the only one who thinks this, because since I met Rosa, the New York Times has interviewed her, and we'll include a link to the Times article as well as the Gotham Park website in the show notes. Thank you again so much, Rosa Chang, for joining us on the Rosenfeld Review. It's been an absolute delight.
Thank you so much, Lou, for inviting me.
Thanks for listening to the Rosenfeld Review, brought to you by Rosenfeld Media. If you like our show, please subscribe and review it on iTunes, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast platform. I'd love it if you tell a friend to have a listen, and check out our website for over 100 podcasts with other interesting people. You'll find them all at rosenfeldreview.com.